In the workplace, if you're ambitious, you're too aggressive. At home, if you're too feminine, then you're too soft.
Is that you will get out of the depressive state that you're in right now. It's not going to last.
You know, it's amazing that you want to grow and that you want to challenge yourself, but you're also allowed to be seen trying and to struggle and to not have all of your shit together.
To relax. Just relax, first of all. Life is a journey.
Trying not to get emotional. The first thing I tell her is it all works out.
Aside from everything, I love the fact that I can dress up, being a woman, put a bold lip, bring that femininity, my femininity, into any aspect in a room. I love that the most.
I love a lot of things about being a woman. I think, firstly, I just love how versatile we are in terms of like fashion. Today you're in a dress, tomorrow you're in like streetwear. Our hair, the way we change our hair, especially for Black women, makeup, shoes, jewelry. I mean, it's endless. So I like to call it shape-shifting. We can shape-shift. Today I'm in a wig, tomorrow I'm in braids, tomorrow I'm in an afro. I love all of it.
A few things. I think the first is the fact that we're always underestimated. I really love seeing the shock on people's faces when the things that you commit to doing you actually accomplish, and they're like, oh, and you know they doubted you just because you're a woman. So I love that. I love shocking people.
So the one thing I like or love about being a woman is the ability to grow, create, and produce life. And I feel like that doesn't just come from children necessarily or concerning children. This can be in anything, an idea that you have, something that you want to create from like birth, not from birth, from like a seed growing basically. So from that to the full products, and just seeing that and being like, I did this. I was able to, have the ability to do this. I think first of all, it's so important to recognize that being a woman means something so different for everyone. And that in itself is really beautiful. But in my understanding of an experience as being a woman, I really appreciate the strong belief and conviction that I am special and I bring something really beautiful to this world.
But on a deeper level, I think I just love how we are when it comes to our emotions. We're so in touch with our emotions. We're so in touch with our vulnerability. I love how we show love to the people we care about. I love how we show love even in our friendships. I love female friendships. I love my girls, to be honest. I think I am where I am, or who I am becoming, because of them in my life.
I think another one is just the resilience that I have, and I know that a lot of the women around me have. Something about women just being able to go through so many trials and be able to pick themselves up. I also love the community. Women have amazing communities. I think it's something that growing up, I didn't really have a lot of, but as I've gotten older, I've invested more in that, and that is truly what carries us as women, despite everything that tries to put us down.
And also just how women can nurture, like nurturing something that's innately in us, and we're able to make a house, a home, we're able to get something small and produce it into something big that can actually be useful, for ourselves and for other people around us. And I also think that we're very persistent with our dreams, like we don't give up easily. And I think that's an experience that speaks to a lot of women.
My name is Tracy Braganza. I'm a lover of life and food. I'm a technology marketing professional. And I love everything marketing, everything technology. Yeah, that's me. Wow.
That's a heavy question, because I feel like women face many challenges in everyday life through multiple aspects of our life.
I think there's so many difficult things about being a woman, but I think I'll focus on just not being heard, not being listened to. And it's in so many areas of our lives, whether it's in the office being underestimated because you're a woman, whether it's in healthcare. The number of times I hear about a woman who wasn't taken seriously, her symptoms weren't taken seriously because they think a woman is emotional or dramatic. The number of times you hear about a woman who had like a heart attack, but no one took it seriously because they thought it was just like a random like chest pain, like you'll be okay, take a Panadol. I think those are the things that are so difficult.
I think it's definitely gender socialization. Women have been socialized in a way to not take up space, to be in the position of accommodating. And I think that has led to us, overlooking our talents and minimizing our strengths, and maybe even at times not tapping into them.
Safety in my daily routine. I mean, something as simple as checking my Uber app and just seeing if the driver looks sketchy. I think entering an elevator and I'm just seeing only men, having to let them go down. Something simple as when I see a guy walking too close to me, I have to think about what is he trying. So I think just putting safety in my daily routine, I find that the most difficult because it's become something that's an instinct to me.
I'll say two things. The first is self-doubt. I think I grew up, and I think a lot of women grew up in an environment where we were always told to think twice, to think 3 times, to think 4 times before we spoke, before we acted. And so I think I still to this day struggle a lot with that, but it's something that I'm working to get over, and it gets better every day. I think the other one is just constantly having to look over my shoulder. Like, I always feel like, not say always, but sometimes, especially in the workplace, you always feel like there's someone coming to get you, or someone coming to like do something to just ruin whatever it is that you're working on. And again, in life, the same thing. It's getting into an Uber and like the guy's energy is off, I'll cancel. If he calls me and he's like rushing me and being very like intimidating or just not giving me the time that I need, I'll cancel. Enter an elevator, a man walks in and he's looking at me weird, I walk out. Just constantly having to be hyper vigilant. It's tiring. It's tiring.
So the biggest thing I think is just, unlike men, we always have to be thinking with all sides of our brain and trying to figure out, is this okay to do? When you're going out, you need to make sure your girls know where you are, your location is on. You need to make sure that you're alert to your surroundings. You can't just go and just like carelessly have fun like a man would do. We need to always be hyper alert and hyper vigilant, because unfortunately the world is geared against women, and we don't have the freedom to just be free and relax and have fun, carefree, without always thinking about, am I going to be safe doing XYZ?
My name is Sheena Juma. I am passionate about the continent. I'm passionate about economic development. My dream is to see this country, this continent, move to a place where we rely on our own when it comes to funding and running our countries. Yeah.
A defining moment. I think there've been a few, but the biggest one is, I would say maybe 2 years back, when I had gone through a cycle of allowing myself to wallow in some of the things that I had gone through. So it was almost like affirming myself as a victim and then continuing to tell myself it's because of this and this and this, that's why I'm doing this. And one day I sat with one of my aunts and she just told me, or made it very clear to me, that despite everything that has happened, it's my responsibility to get myself up. And if I don't, I'll remain in that place and everyone else's life moves on. And I think from that point, it just became a fight against myself. It wasn't the things around me, it wasn't the people around me, it was me actually every day choosing a better life for myself.
The one thing that comes to mind first is an experience I went through maybe 4-ish years ago. And that was something that made me do a lot of self-reflection on like who I am and how I present myself to the world around me and not just being compulsive, let me say that, because I used to be very compulsive in my earlier 20s, kind of in my mid-20s.
Defining moment for me, I think, is when I first moved out of Kenya. I moved to Jordan at about 12, 13 years old. So that in itself was already difficult, having to adjust to a new environment, a new culture, people with a new language, new religion, everything was different.
But the older I got, I felt like I was able to not just do things based off of like emotion and just reacting, but actually taking the time to think and, you know, have basically an internal conversation with myself and figure out whatever this person said, even if it was triggering, I can still respond in a way that doesn't like push me over the edge, and I can just carry myself, you know, gracefully. So patience, I think, was one thing that I learned from certain experiences. I don't know, I hope that answered the question properly.
But what even became more difficult was learning to love myself, not just as a Black person, but as a Black woman. Because I was always either one in like 4, let me say, Black people in the entire school. So that was definitely an adjustment. But looking back, I realized it's what has taught me to love myself, like wholeheartedly, and to be myself. And so now I can walk into any room and not feel threatened or feel intimidated because maybe I'm the only woman in the room, or I'm the only Black person in the room, or I'm the only young person in the room. I can just fully be myself because I've learned to adapt to such an environment.
The most defining moment in my life, I'd say, is losing my mom and sister. Specifically my mom, because then it made me understand the importance of a mother figure. Now being an adult, it made me understand the importance of a mother figure in terms of being a voice of reason, a voice of wisdom to my younger self. So it made me even become passionate about younger girls in the workplace. I mean, my younger cousins, my younger friends. So it became a drive for me to instill wisdom and as well as become that voice of reason for anyone going through something tough that I can relate to. And also it made me respect mothers. I mean, it's a hard job, yeah.
I think my story starts with like Abraham. He was my first pony. And in the stable, he was known for like, people fell off him a lot. You know, he was a little bit of a rebel. And funny thing is, he's also an Aquarius like me. So we both have this unconventional aspect to our personality. But I was obsessed with him, and we had this strong connection. And I think that, you know, when I look at myself, of course I am a woman, but when I think about myself, it's not so much as my identity as a woman, but like who I am as a person. I don't relate almost so closely with like my gender, you know what I'm trying to say? But I think it's more about like who I am as a person, and he really shaped my personality in so many ways. You know, it would literally be us against the world. You know, like with horses, you usually ride them with a saddle and with a bridle, you know, on their face. But I would ride him without anything, and our energy was so synchronized. And he really taught me to just go for it. If I believe in something, I go for it. And I'm very clear with what I want and what I don't want. And he was so real and such an embodiment of love. And authenticity and love have always been really central to like the way that I navigate this world and the way that I look at myself. So I think that, yeah, I appreciate him so much because he really shaped me to be the woman that I am today.
My name is Ciku Mutahi. I am passionate about this continent. I'm passionate about youth. I'm passionate about women. To be a bit more specific, I'm passionate about development that is sustainable. I currently work in a family business, and my goal there is to try and build structures that will enable it to go past the generation that started it.
I think definitely my mom is the first person that comes to mind. That woman is so damn strong. Like, she's a force in this world, and she's so confident, and she knows what she wants out of this world. And it has really inspired me that, you know, no dream is too big. And I know we say that a lot superficially, but she really taught me that no dream is actually too big. Even if you don't have the resources, a way will be made. And I think having that level of faith and hope and understanding that there is actually a rightful place for you in this world is so empowering. And I honestly love that she instilled that in me. So she's inspired me in so many ways, and I'm forever grateful for that.
I have many. So I'll pick three. Firstly, my sister. She embodies excellence in all that she does. And my value as a human being basically is apply excellence in everything that I do, right? Being perfect from the word go. I appreciate that. And I think it sets you up for the world and what the world is going to throw at you.
I think this is for a lot of women. It's my mom, honestly. I think my mom is my superhero. And the older I've gotten, the more in love I am with her, to be honest.
There's so many powerful women in my life, Tupac, like.
Second is my friends and their moms. So I'm very fortunate and proud that I can say my friends have the same values that I have. So it's so easy being friends. I mean, it's easy for them to call me out when they see something out of character. So that has also brought me to the woman I am. Then another thing I'd say is the women I've encountered in the workplace. So I'm very fortunate to have had 2 female managers in my career who have been, nothing short of amazing. So they've shown me how you can still be a mother, a wife, and still be a boss lady in the workplace. So I respect that, and that has also shifted my perspective in how I'm also dealing in the current stages in my life. Yeah.
My mom was a single mom, raised 2 kids on her own. And honestly, I think she did an amazing job, even though if I do say so myself. And I think it's the way she didn't allow her adversities to change her or to stop her from achieving her dreams or to make her bitter, for lack of a better word. I think it's the way she makes everyone around her comfortable. I see it with the way she is with my female cousins, my nieces. They're always so comfortable speaking to her, even with things about like boys. She's the auntie that everyone wants to speak to. And I think it speaks to how her personality, how warm she is, how welcoming she is, and the safe space she creates for everyone. And if I could be half the woman that she is, I think I will say I've succeeded.
I've been thinking about who would I even speak about? But I think the first one that comes to my mind is my grandmother. She's not alive anymore. So my dad's father, the woman I'm named after, she's called Wanjiko. And she was the person who walks into a room, her hair's perfectly done, her outfit is like red and bright, and her nails were always done. And when I was younger, it was a lot. I was always like, why does she care so much? Like what she looks like or how she presents herself. But now, as I've gotten older, I've realized that realized the power of a first impression. And I think that's what she taught me. She taught me that when you enter a room, you never want to put yourself below the standard that you know you're about to bring in just because of how you look. Like you might as well start at the top and then maybe whatever you do have inside is not matching, but at least give yourself a fighting chance. So that is something that I do now. I think the second one is my mom. She's an entrepreneur and she's broken enough glass ceilings. I don't even know if there's ceilings in her life. She just keeps going. And one of the things she's taught me is when things get tough, stay in the tension. Like that is where the gold mine is. Like keep pushing. The day you can't continue is the day you have to continue. And that has really helped me, especially now as I've stepped into the business. There are things that happen and I'm like, I just want to sleep. But I know if I give it that extra hour, that's the hour where I'll crack the code. Then I have so many aunties who are just phenomenal women. Some of the things I've learned from them is 1, keep God close, always. And the second one is find out what works for you and run with it. Don't try to be like everyone else. We're all different. We're all beautiful in our own way. And I can't fit into their molds. They always tell me, don't sit and do what I did. Let's work out what works for you because of the person that you are and the character that you have and etc. So, yeah.
So for me, I wouldn't say there's been multiple women around me that have inspired me necessarily, but the one person that I have learned a lot from is my mom. And she, from the time I was maybe 15 or 16, when I was old enough to kind of understand, trying to figure out who am I as a person, who am I as like a woman, what is expected of me, how do I need to like carry myself and live my life. I learned from her experiences and the negative things that she had gone through and how she was able to deal with that. And that really shaped my view growing up as well. And the negative things that she experienced, I was able to turn that around for me in the sense of knowing what to accept and what not to accept from the people in my life, different relationships that I've had. So I think that has really given me a backbone, so to speak. Because previously it was very easy for me to have people just walk all over me, take advantage of me. But it got to a point where I was like, no, like if I don't feel like doing something, you can't force me to do something, you know. So I think just developing that backbone and being able to say no if I don't want to do something and saying yes to the things I want to say yes to.
My name is Tula, and titles aside, I see myself as someone driven by love, equity, and unity, and that shapes how I navigate the world. But I'm a psychology-based coach, and I guide individuals towards compassionate inner leadership.
Not living up to my purpose.
There are many. Anyways, I think the one that keeps me up at night or makes me wake up in the morning is not living up to the expectations that I have for myself.
Okay. So for this, I will add a personal experience or story. Just watching my parents' marriage and the things that they went through and the things that they dealt with. I feel like for me that I was terrified to make the same mistake. Like my biggest fear was ending up with somebody that would like be abusive, somebody I wouldn't be able to trust, like with my kids, with myself as well. But you know, I'm glad and I'm grateful that God brought the right person into my life, based off of what I know I could attract, and basically getting rid of the people that I felt like were just going to add more chaos into my life, because I'd grown up around chaos a lot. So for me, my biggest fear was ending up with somebody that I would go through the same thing that my mom and my parents went through in their marriage.
I think for most people, I'd say that's their biggest fear. The fact that you were put on this world to do something, and there'll be a time maybe you'll think to yourself, what if I'm in the wrong path? What if I don't get to achieve my purpose? So for me, it's something that haunts me. I'd say it keeps me up at night, not just knowing, am I aligned with the purpose that God has for me on this earth? Yeah.
Or the expectations or the will that God has for my life. I fear that sometimes I might allow myself to sink into the expectations people have of me just because I'm a woman. And that is my biggest fear. Doing just enough just because I'm a woman.
I think for me, it's that issue of safety, especially in Kenya, given the current landscapes with all the crimes that are happening against women, and also just the normalization of certain things when it comes to gender socialization. For instance, the way that men are it's normalized to treat women in certain ways in this country, and that's very worrisome for me as a woman. But on a deep level, I feel like the fear of not being able to achieve my dreams, because I've attached my dreams so closely with my purpose in this world. So I think if that wouldn't be able to manifest, or if I wouldn't be able to contribute this meaningful thing that I want to in this world, that would really shatter me.
As a woman, my biggest fear, the obvious one would be my safety. There's so many crimes against women, so much violence against women. It's the fact that we constantly have to look over our shoulder. Entering an Uber, always checking who the driver is, checking the number plate, entering a lift, being in certain spaces, always checking the ratio of men to women. I think those are always just something that you always subconsciously have to think about at the back of your mind. But on a deeper level, I would say it's losing myself. I think there's so many expectations I have for myself, so many expectations that I know others have of me. And my biggest fear would be to get into those roles in terms of like my position in the marketplace, or whether it's becoming a wife, a mother, and then forgetting myself. I think by nature, women are nurturing. So we're always taking care of those around us, always making sure that everyone else is okay, forgetting to check on ourselves. There's so many times I've seen videos on TikTok of how, a woman gives birth or becomes a mom, and it's like they forget who they are, and they look back 10 years to who they were in their 20s, and they're like, oh, I can't believe that's who I used to be. So I think I wouldn't want to lose that. and even in the corporate world, wherever I become, whatever position I get into, I wouldn't want to forget who I am outside of that.
My name is Mutanu Muindi. I got my bachelor's in psychology, so I have a passion when it comes to trying to like understand, people and how they think, what they do, both genders, trying to figure out how to just make things better, people's lives better. Yeah.
I'd make it a safer place, a safer world for women. Women who just want to go jogging on the street and not to be catcalled. Women who just want to rise in the workplace and not be told they're, bitchy or too ambitious or too aggressive. Women who just want to, just make balance of being a mother and being a boss babe in the workplace and not be told that they have to give up something in order to rise in something else. Yeah.
One thing, I think I would shelter young women from the world that we live in now until they get to a point where they have enough self-confidence to brace the world. I would create like some sort of a community where women between the age of, 0 and maybe 12 or 13 live as just women and learn about themselves, learn about their strengths, learn about just who they are, and are sheltered from some of the inequalities and just the horrible things that can happen in homes, in churches, in institutions, so that when they enter the world, they know their value. Because I think as a lot of women, we get into, for example, the workplace, or once we get to a certain age, we now have to go back and undo so many of the things that happened to us, or so many of the things that we learned. Like for me, one of the biggest ones is I realize that I sometimes subconsciously always choose the short end of the stick. Someone will offer me an opportunity and I'll take this much when I could have taken this much. But when you look at the men in the same positions, they'll take the whole stick and leave nothing. But it's not even something that I do intentionally, but it's something that is learned because as women, at least for me, when I was growing up, there are a lot of instances where I was given the short end of the stick. So I thought that's what I deserved. So I would almost try and figure out how to shelter young women to understand better their value before being introduced into this crazy world.
The biggest thing I would say would be the ability for women to exist in peace without having to constantly not be on alert mode and having like a wall up and a shield up, and just being able to be a woman, relax in our feminine energy, have the environment around us that allows us to relax in our feminine energy. So I think it's mainly tapping into the mentality of men and just being like, we are equal. Like, just because you're a man and I'm a woman doesn't mean that I'm less than you. Just being able to be viewed as a person and not less than a person for our gender or sex. So yeah, I would love the opportunity for women to exist in peace.
Empower women with the skills to believe in themselves. And I think this comes a lot from the work that I do with coaching women around the world. And especially in Kenya, I noticed that with our education system, we suppress so much creativity, generativity. It's really, even when we look at the way that we understand power as a country, talking to individuals that are in authority figures, or how women are supposed to interact with other women and other men. We need to investigate those dynamics that are going on. And I think that it's really hard, especially in my work with Kenyan women, the Kenyan youth, to take up space to say what they really think about a situation, because it seems that we're always sort of at the mercy of someone. So I think that kind of reeling that power back in and realizing that the power is always within, and really understanding the power of that statement. Like, what does that actually mean,
I think it just goes back again to safety. Making sure that, I think my dream was to have every woman in the world, every woman in this country feel safe. I've had the privilege of being in countries like Thailand, where you could walk at midnight freely and not have to think twice. I'm sure it's at the back of their minds, but it's just a society that they live in. There's so much safety, so much security that you don't have to worry about being mugged. or being kidnapped. And I think it's those freedoms that sometimes like we wish for every woman in the world. I think also just rights and equality. It's so sad that even in 2025, we still have societies where people aren't allowed to have an education. Women aren't allowed to have an education just because of who they were born as. So I think if we would have a society where women just had equal rights, we just want to go to school, we just want to use our degrees and apply our skills and not be undermined or underestimated just because of our gender.
But I would put more punitive laws so that it's really, you will be so heavily punished if you do anything against a woman in this country. Yeah.
Wow. There are a few.
That women are bad drivers.
Biggest thing is that women are super emotional.
But I'll just focus on one. I think a lot of people, there's always this debate of, is it easier to be a woman, easier to be a man? I'm not here to settle that debate. I'm just here to say that it is difficult, probably being both. But for me today, it's difficult being a woman. And I think when I was thinking about why, when you look at a woman and what she was created to do, for instance, according to the word, let's say women are created to birth something new, essentially to incubate, to grow, and to birth something new from just a seed. So everything that happens within a woman or in a woman's life happens inside of her. Women live inside. We don't live outside. So everything that we share, everything that we give is like the tip of the iceberg. Everything else happens inside. And there's so many emotions, so many, I don't even know, so many meetings with ourselves. Like there's so much we go through internally that the world doesn't see. And it might seem like there's nothing happening, but it's not true. Everything for us happens inside. And I think that's what I wanted to share today. It's crazy how a woman can get us like a seed and then create a human being, So that just shows everything that we can do and everything that we process and everything that we create happens on the inside. And it's hard because sometimes it can get lonely, being able to, not having people to share that with, and sometimes not wanting to share it because do I know that everyone is having the same experience as I am? So I think that would be it. We're not just floating around. We're processing a lot. Yeah.
I don't drive, but I've had that a lot. And it irritates me because sometimes when I'm in an Uber and I see the gentleman overtaking, thinking it's a woman driving, I see it's a man. So just saying that it's not women that are bad drivers. I think everyone has different strengths, and maybe driving is not a strength for some people.
So I feel like that's a false narrative that a lot of people share. So I think that women can be, as much as yes, we are generally more emotional than men are, we're still able to keep, have a solid head of our shoulders and use logic when logic is needed. And I feel like being emotional as well can be a healthy and a good balance. That doesn't mean that, because you're a woman and you're emotional, you can't be trusted in certain positions or situations. So, yeah.
The second one that I'm very passionate about, and it affects me every day, is that femininity and ambition are opposites. And I genuinely think that's very false. You can have both as a woman. You can be as feminine as you want and still be ambitious as you want in the workplace, in the household, in life generally. So it's treated as such opposites in the sense that in the workplace, if you're ambitious, you're too aggressive. At home, if you're too feminine, then you're too soft. But I think there's a touch of both that you can have and still be successful.
I think it's just what it means to be a woman. I think that the beauty about finding God and having a relationship with God is you begin to understand what He intended femininity to be. And even like now that I've built a relationship with Him and reading the Bible and understanding, I see so many women in the Bible, Ruth, Esther, so many women who were still very much feminine, but still had purpose, still were ambitious, still adventurous. It didn't, them being in alignment with their purpose or being in their roles in wherever it is that they were doing, didn't take away from them being a wife or a mother. And so I think the world needs to understand that we can do both. We don't have to be one or the other. you can be a director and still go home and be the submissive wife and still be a nurturing and caring mother. And even that definition of being submissive, I wish people had a better understanding of what God meant that to be. It doesn't mean that I'm weaker or less important. It actually means that I trust you as a man to lead me. Like, I'm giving you that honor of taking charge. And I don't want to think. Actually, when I get up, I don't want to think. Most women, you'd be surprised, don't want to go home and have to think about, so many other things. They just want to be led. So I think if the world can begin to understand that we can do both, I think we'd be in a better position.
I think just understanding that when you're speaking about yourself, when you're taking up space, you're not being prideful, and that you're not inconveniencing others when you're sharing about what you bring to the world, and that you're actually inspiring others. It's being looked down upon to really believe in yourself, because there's a fear of making a mistake. And especially we have to realize that making a mistake for a woman and making a mistake as a man are two different things. They mean two different things in this world. So I think that learning how to really integrate your mistakes and that process of being seen trying, so that nobody can really use it against you, I think that's also where the fear of that misconception comes from.
If I was to sit in front of my younger self, I think I would tell her to relax. Just relax, first of all. Life is a journey. I think I was in such a rush to become this woman I envisioned in my mind that sometimes I forgot to just sit back and enjoy the process of becoming that woman. So I would tell myself to take my time and to learn from my mistakes, that my mistakes don't define who I am. I wish somebody could have just hugged my 12, 13, 16-year-old self and told her that it's okay. Like, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall. But the most important part is that you wake up, that you still get up the next day and still go at it. And I think that would have helped me to realize that I will always become the person I'm meant to be. It was always in God's plan. I was never not going to be that person. And I wish I give myself more grace in knowing that.
I would tell younger Tula that it's okay for life to be messy, that, it's amazing that you want to grow and that you want to challenge yourself, but you're also allowed to be seen trying and to struggle and to not have all of your shit together. Because I think I've always been the kind of person that looking at my mistakes and what I did wrongly comes very easily for me. And I always want to fix it and to be like, oh yeah, I did that wrong. And I have no problem with acknowledging that. But sometimes when does it become like bypassing how you feel to achieve growth? So I would tell myself to you're allowed to sit with the feelings of discomfort and to feel really annoyed. That's all of the part of the process of growing. Yeah. Okay.
Trying not to get emotional. The first thing I tell her is it all works out. You'll be good. Things will come together. But if I could have spoken to her at certain moments to help the journey that she went through, I would tell her to trust her voice more. I think there are many instances where I hid and I silenced myself because of fear, either fear of being rejected or fear of being wrong. And it costed me years because now I'm starting to realize that the spaces that I need to be in, I need to be speaking. So I would ask her to trust her voice more because, yes, you'll get it wrong sometimes, but it's not the end of the world, And then I think the other one is I'd nudge her to find God earlier. I think from the moment in my life when I actually began to spend time with God and what would I say? Just invest in my spiritual life, things turned around. And if I did that earlier, God knows where I'd be. But the first thing I tell her is things will be fine. Things will work out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The number one biggest thing I would tell my younger self is that you will get out of the depressive state that you're in right now. It's not going to last. Life is going to get better. Things will look up for you. You'll be happy again. I'm not going to get emotional. But yeah, so I think the biggest thing is like just smile, relax, and things will look up for you. It won't be this sad forever.